An orca raises 2 beluga calves, prey in the wild. Years later, engines slash the fog. Who shields whom when the gate shudders? Teeth versus love. Instinct versus culture. What breaks first? Watch a family. No science predicted. Invent a new language of survival and choose the unthinkable in the midnight water. The sat phone shattered the quiet on Maya Reyes's desk, its antenna trembling on the laminate. 2 crates, beluga calves, alive but failing. The ranger at the harbour said, "Mother's dead. We've seized the paperwork. Trawlers impounded. You have minutes, not hours." Maya was already moving, boots drumming the catwalk, frost coughing under her soles. The clinic smelled of iodine and salt. Inside the quarantined bay, 2 small bodies lay in padded slings, breaths too shallow, eyes glazed like sea glass. The male showed a faint grey patch smudged along his flank, nimbus. The female's left eye carried a tiny crescent scar, Luna. Names help the mind fight panic. "Refuse the bottle, twice an hour," the vet reported. "Tubes spiked their stress, oxygen's flirting with the floor." Maya studied the monitors, wavering lines, a slow, stubborn pulse. She lowered a gloved finger to Luna's jaw and felt the calf turn away from light. Nimbus tremored when the syringe approached, a ripple of fear traveling his spine. "Gentle team," Maya said, voice steady to lend courage she did not own. "No force. We match their pace or we lose them." The omniscient sea pressed its cold face against the windows. Outside, the refuge looked like ingenuity, held together by screws that had learned patience, patched tarps, borrowed heaters, a hydrophone array coaxed from second-hand parts. Grants arrived late, bills arrived on time. Hope ran on voltage and coffee. Mother was shot after they cornered her against the breakwater, the ranger radioed from the pier. Cubs were crated for export. Somewhere under the dock, a gull cried and fell silent at once. Minutes, not hours. Maya breathed once, twice, counting herself back from rage. "We're going to make a language they understand," she told the room. "Start with scenting the formula. Warm the sling water 1 degree, lights down, noise minimal." The calves did not drink. Their ribs fluttered. Time, thinner than ice, thinned again. Day 3 blurred the clocks. The calves still refused, surviving by inches. Nimbus shuddered after a careful syringe touch, a ripple running his spine like wind over grass. Luna turned her face from the lamp each time it brightened, pupils pinning, breath thinning. The vet lowered his hands. "We're past diminishing returns," he said softly. "Another attempt could tip them." The room wore fatigue like salt. Heat mats ticked, infusion pumps blinked amber, a whiteboard crowded with ratios. 3-1 herring oil, 2% glucose, half-strength electrolytes. Saline drips ticked, cloth-wrapped warm pack steamed in plastic bins. "Try 39 degrees, a tech murmured. "No, pull back. He's trembling." Someone's knuckles were raw from rinsing tubing. Someone else reset the oxygen monitor with a prayer that sounded like routine. The numbers answered with stubborn drift. Down, stall, down. Maya charted every hour, then set the pen aside when the lines told the same story. Coffee went cold by her elbow. The sea pressed its quiet face against the clinic windows. Outside, frost mapped the rails. Inside, the air smelled of iodine, fear, and the rubber tang of gloves. "Gentle only," Maya said, because there was nothing left to order. "No forcing. We meet them where they are." The omniscience of grief moved through her like weather. Years ago in the fjords, she had broken a rule shaped like iron. A pod stranded behind a moving ice wall. The channel was closing, sound trapped under pressure. She unlocked a battered laptop, keyed a band playback, and filled the corridor with a mother's call. The whales turned, used the lane, lived. She closed the file, filed no report, learned the taste of a useful lie. Now the hydrophone array waited in the dark like a violin in a case. A strip of tape covered the hotkey she would not press. "Give me a miracle," the vet whispered. "Give me a sentence," a tech said. Maya walked to the window where the pens cut silver shapes into the bay. Kiva swam slow circles far outside the floodlights, trailing kelp like ribbon. "What else can speak to them?" Maya asked the water, and the water did not answer. Kiva began looping kelp at the edge of the outer pen days ago, threading the fronds into a ragged wreath and pushing it against the float line. She kept returning to nudge and lick the bundle, then parked beneath it, as if shadowing a cradle. The vet had a name for it: false pregnancy, biology rehearsing for a child that would not come. In stories told by Teeth and Tide, orcas and belugas do not share nurseries. The staff knew those stories by heart. "If she reads them as prey?" a tech asked, eyes on the calves' monitors. "If instinct is a door that only opens one way?" "Then I slam the other door," Maya said, nodding toward the manual drop gate. "And I take the blame." They built a neutral meeting space in the service pen, slicked decks scrubbed of scent, a camera grid watching every angle, emergency slings coiled like harnessed wings. Acoustic dampeners lined the net walls. An oxygenated side channel waited as an escape lane. They set out the formula feeder, rubbed with scented cloths the calves tolerated. Safety lines were flaked and ready. A dart kit sat unopened. No one wanted that kind of sleep. "This is a terrible idea," the vet said. "It's the only one left," Maya answered. "They will not last another night without a mother." Under a thinning afternoon, Kiva surfaced within the outer lane and exhaled a mist that hung like a question. Maya matched the orca's slow drift with her stillness. "We ask," she told the team, and the water. "We do not force." "Clock's thin," the ranger warned over radio. "Weather's dropping." Maya keyed the gate motor, then paused over the switch. The tape still covered the playback hotkey on her laptop. Her rule, no shortcuts with sound, held. "Open the lane," she said at last. "Now." If Kiva chooses them, we follow her lead. If she doesn't, we close and grieve. The outer gate slid with a damp clank, and water drew a slow seam through the service pen. Kiva slipped in on a breath, quiet as snow, dorsal cutting the surface, tail beating a measured tension that set the lane to glitter. She pivoted once, reading the nets, the ladders, the shape of the air above the water. "Hold positions," Maya said. "No sudden help, no sudden fear." Luna's sling creaked along the rail. The calf blinked at the dimmed lamps, sides fluttering. "Easy, little one," a tech murmured. Maya knelt, hands steady in neoprene, and lowered Luna until the sling's belly kissed the surface. Salt lifted, the calf took a cautious sip of temperature, then stilled as Kiva approached. Clicks tapped the water like falling beads, high, searching, bright. Kiva rolled the sounds down the ladder of her mouth until they settled into a warm, low trilling. The hydrophone translated only as tone, but the room felt the shift from question to welcome. Kiva angled, exposing the pale field of her throat, a gesture mothers use to invite. She released a small pressure wave that folded under Luna and lifted her, not quite a touch, the ghost of one. Luna's eyes softened. The calf's ribs widened for a longer breath. Maya heard herself whisper, "That's right. Answer her." The words were for the room as much as the water. Kiva circled once more, slower, building a pocket of calm. "Lines slack," Maya said. "Let the pen breathe." The sling straps eased. Luna slid free and drifted to the orca's shadow like iron to a compass. "Second calf?" the vet asked, voice low with the ache of hope. "Not yet," Maya replied. "She's writing the first sentence." Kiva hummed a note that trembled the ladders. When Luna nosed the scented feeder, Kiva pulsed another gentle wave, and the calf's mouth found slurry. A thin ribbon of air bubbled from her lip. The monitors ticked a steadier rhythm. Only then did Maya nod for Nimbus. The male's tremor ran once and was gone as Kiva braided a second thread of sound through the first, a two-voice weave that made the pen feel rounder, safer. Nimbus drifted beside Luna, their breaths falling into time with Kiva's own. Maya's hands began to shake, not with fear, but with careful awe. She stood back from the rail. "No touching," she reminded softly. "No triumph. We are guests here." The room exhaled together. She looked to her team. "We leave, we watch. We let water talk." Night pooled in the clinic like ink, and the monitors kept their pale constellations. Through the glass, Kiva formed a crescent around the calves, her flank a breathing wall that turned cold water warm. When Luna stirred, a soft trill answered from Kiva's throat. When Nimbus twitched, a second note threaded the first until their breaths aligned. The hydrophone drew their harmonies as slow hills. A tech whispered, "Hold that note, girl," and nobody shushed him. Near midnight, Luna's mouth found the scent-marked feeder, then lost it. Kiva nudged a pressure wave beneath the calf, not pushing, but cupping, and Luna sipped again. "That's it," Maya said, voice barely air. Nimbus sidled in, the faint grey patch along his flank flashing once in the pen lights. Kiva widened the cord, and the male drank without the tremor that had haunted him all day. At 03:12, the monitor wrote a small miracle, heart rates easing into steadier ranges, oxygen rising point by point. The room did the math and chose not to speak it. Kiva kept humming, her body the geography of safety, and the calves settled in the map she made. Morning brought numbers that felt like a sunrise. Weight up 30 grams, then 50 by evening. The vet circled the figures twice, capped his pen with a grin he tried to hide. "Attachment first," he murmured. Maya typed the line into her log and finished it. "Attachment first, skills second." The week unfurled like a learning tide. Luna discovered shadow chase, carving figure eights through ribbons of light while Kiva held still to lengthen the runway. Nimbus explored Kiva's pectoral with small, respectful side rubs. The orca adjusted her angle so his melon cleared, then stillness returned to let him try again. "She's not teaching orca," a ranger said, astonished. "She's mirroring them." In reply, the water made a sound like agreement. Feeding rituals settled into a new grammar. Kiva steered them to the feeder, backed away, and waited. Only when both calves finished did she take her portion, a reversal of hierarchy so consistent the team stopped doubting it. "Family eats like this," Maya told the whiteboard, drawing arrows that looped toward one another. At lights down, the bay turned cathedral quiet. The hydrophone screen glowed a soft aurora as Kiva sang a ladder of notes and the calves drifted into it, eyes half closed, backs rising in unison. "Listen," Maya said, hands flat on the glass. "This is how tomorrow is built." No one answered. There was nothing to add. The sea answered anyway, laying a hush upon the pen like a blessing. Outside, frost loosened its grip on the rails. Inside, a new rule took root. Safety first, then courage, then play. The calves slept, and the night finally exhaled in peace. Dawn learned their names. At first light, The bay wore a cat's paw texture, tiny ripples printing wind speed in silver code. Kiva slid along the float line while Luna and Nimbus hovered downwind, nostrils just breaking the skin of the water. A pause, then another, longer. Stillness opened like a door. "Hold your silence like a net," Maya told the team, not the animals. Kiva matched the instruction anyway, slowing until the calves felt the water unwrinkle under their jaws. When a breeze scuffed the surface, Luna adjusted first, angling to keep scent and sound unbroken. Nimbus mirrored, a beat behind. "Reading wind," a tech whispered. "It's a lesson you can't see until you can." Breakfast kept the ritual that rewrote hierarchy. Calves first, always. Kiva would float apart, eye on the pair, refusing a bite until their bellies rose fuller. "Family is timing," Maya said, capping her pen. Then the work turned playful on purpose. Kiva let air slip from her lips and rolled it into a roped shimmer. Luna added bright bursts until a bubble curtain cinched in a shimmering oval. Nimbus tested the edge with his melon, widened the ring, then let it settle. "No rush," the vet murmured. "Patience is the muscle." Decoy drills followed, a foam fish on a line, darting, stopping, darting again. "No tackle," Maya warned. "Only red and redirect." The calves complied, tapping the decoy into the curtain and waiting for it to tire itself against air. Kiva flanked, never striking, only shaping pressure so their choices stayed gentle and precise. The lesson stuck. Play hardened into skill without hardening their mouths. Across the hydrophone, the day learned to talk back. A three-note phrase, click, click, warble, became where. A lower huff, stitched to a rising trill, meant again. Sometimes Kiva added a bass pulse underneath, a borrowed Orca vowel. Sometimes the calves braided a grey whistle through it all. "They're writing a third language," the harbour ranger said, chin on the rail. "A family dialect." Maya wrote a line on her clipboard and boxed it. Shared dictionary building, not beluga, not orca. Clouds bruised the horizon purple. A gull rode the updraft and screamed once, then left. "Stormline's advancing," the ranger radioed. "Outer east fence inspection due." A delivery of bolts was late. The diver's tank regulator needed a seal. "After lunch," someone promised. "We check after lunch." Kiva gathered the calves into a final stillness, the kind that feels like a hand on a shoulder. The bay listened. So did the people, warmed by the almost music of work going right and by the arrogance that tomorrow would wait. Offshore, a buoy gave one tired gong as wind freshened. Someone chalked later on the board. The water kept the ledger. The tide took that promise personally. Wind arrived like a hand tipping the table. The bay went from silver to slate in a minute. Rain slashed sideways, erasing the horizon completely. Lightning stitched veins through the clouds, and the power blinked once, twice, before the generators seized the load. Somewhere beyond the east floats, a cedar cracked, heaved and dropped into the fence line with a thud that nobody heard over weather. "Status," Maya called. The ranger's radio coughed. "Outer east grid, intermittent. Lightning's jamming the pings." On the monitors, the fence telemetry froze, then rolled back alive too slowly. The gap was small, mean as a cut, but the tide found it first, widening threads into a doorway. Shadows thickened in the wash. The hydrophone hissed, then produced a sound like metal dragged over stone. A transient bull orca, scar-laced, slid through the breach with hunger riding him like a rider. Kiva felt him before the people did. She pivoted, shouldering Luna and Nimbus behind her curve. The bull arrowed down the lane, a black blade in bad water. "Hold positions," Maya said. "No noise, no splashes." "Do I hit the alarms?" a tech asked. "Not yet." The bull lifted to breathe, and the rain painted his face in mercury. He lined for Kiva, size against size, history against history. Kiva chose not to flee. She turned broadside, eye on the lane, and made herself a wall. "Nimbus!" the vet whispered, uselessly, as the male calf streaked forward like thrown light. Luna detonated first, a tight bubble shield swelling from her lips, a bright ring that wobbled the rain into beads. Nimbus followed with a second circle, tighter and offset, turning the lane into a maze of fragile glass. Then came the sound, a click barrage, fast as hail, tuned to scramble hunt scents. The bull checked, confused by echoes bouncing off bubbles, off nets, off his own jaw. "Hold the line," Maya said, not sure which bodies she meant. The bull pushed once more. Luna slipped left, Nimbus right, their rings collapsing and blooming in counterbeat. Kiva added pressure, a low shoulder wave that invited the only exit that didn't require hurting anyone, back through the breach. Lightning hit the bay and stood there, a tree. The bull chose survival. He peeled, growled a subsonic note, and slid out the way he came. Silence didn't fall. It arrived on its knees. The monitors unwound their panic. The calves drifted to Kiva and pressed their heads along her jawline, stroking her gently. "Alarms now," Maya said at last. "Close the gate. Nobody moves fast." Her hand hovered over the laptop, where a strip of tape still blanked the playback hotkey. "No shortcuts with sound," she told herself. "Not today." The storm kept trying to speak. The refuge chose to listen instead. Rain thinned to a hush, sounding like breath returning. In the service pen, Kiva held herself still, a living harbour, while Luna and Nimbus pressed along her jawline and traced slow arcs with their melons, the way hands might smooth a blanket. No raking, no posturing, no show of conquest, only the recalibration that follows danger survived together. Maya exhaled and clicked her recorder. "Protection is a grammar too," she said, letting the words settle in the room. The vet nodded without looking away from the glass. "Then today they conjugated it." A tech laughed softly and covered her mouth as if to keep reverence from spilling. Kiva resumed the old ritual made new. Calves first at the feeder. Luna ate, then yielded space. Nimbus took his portion without the tremor that had haunted him for days, paused, and nudged a ribbon of bubbles toward Kiva's chin. She answered with a low trill that made the rails hum. Outside, the ranger logged the incident and underlined a single sentence: "No aggression toward Kiva after defense." He radioed, "Fence patched, north float secured." The bay smoothed its face. Maya rested her palms against the window. "We are guests here," she reminded the team. "Learn the house rules." The calves drifted back to Kiva, and the three formed their crescent again, a shape that read like punctuation at the end of a hard paragraph. The hydrophone drew the moment as a small, persistent hill. Not triumph, not surrender. Family, transcribed in water and breath, durable as bone, gentle as light falling through rain. Emails arrived like weather fronts. "Fascinating until hormones hit," one biologist wrote. "When testosterone peaks to you, your family ends." Another pressed, "Publish a separation plan." A funder added, "Mitigate foreseeable risk." Maya read them, filed them, and told the team, "We proceed by design, not fear." Design began in the lanes. Divers hung louvered baffles to soften currents. Engineers rigged acoustic corridors with neutral beacon tones. No maternal calls, no food codes, soft pings paired to coloured floats. "We're not summoning," Maya said. "We're labeling." Rangers sketched the route on a whiteboard: refuge pen, corridor, neighboring beluga enclosure. A clear water side channel shadowed the path. "Gate on my mark," the vet said the first afternoon. Kiva rose, eyeing the seam, then dipped her jaw toward Luna and Nimbus. The calves slid forward, hesitant joy brightening their movement. Beyond the last baffle, 3 belugas hovered by the mesh, curious. "Let them choose," Maya said. "We hold the door, we don't push them through." Luna crossed first, found a chorus of soft whistles, and answered with a shy trill. Nimbus followed, traded gentle flipper rubs through the net, then eased back to Kiva and... They commuted like that for days, afternoons with peers, nights back through the song lane Kiva seemed to hold with her very body. They came back on their own, a ranger noted, wonder roughening his voice. The hydrophone drew the travelers' braided threads, bright on visits, richer on return. "Maybe home is a chord," a tech said. With the pod, Luna learned social glides and chorus rests. Nimbus practiced cooperative herding without pressure waves. Back with Kiva, they kept their rituals: calves first at the feeder, stillness before work, while adding new phrases. The skeptics kept writing. "They're stretching, not snapping," Maya answered in her log. That night she pulled the old laptop from a drawer, checked the band playback still slept under tape, and wrote on the cover in marker, "No more shortcuts with sound, no more lies." "You're leaving power on the table?" the vet said gently. He nodded, accepting the slower road. "That wasn't power," Maya replied. "It was leverage against my patients. We're done with that. For good." 4th birthdays arrived with gull banners and steaming thermoses. Donors, scientists and rangers crowded the observation deck, name tags silvering in the cold. The hydrophone fed a live murmur to small speakers. Maya raised a hand. "Observe. Don't intrude. Applause stays in your pockets." Below, the service crew slipped the foam decoy into the lane and let it dart. Kiva surfaced, took a slow breath, and sank to the flank like a drummer finding tempo. She held a steady beat of pressure waves while Luna exhaled a rope of pearls, then another, lacing them into a bright bubble curtain that tightened with each circle. Nimbus angled the decoy, nudging it toward the ring, then stopped. He hovered, patient, the lesson holding. A behaviorist whispered, "Coordinated constraint, not strike." Another added, "Inversion of the predatory script." A child at the rail asked, "Is the black one their mum?" His father blinked. "Looks like it." Kiva slid to the outside and gave one low wave wash. Water folded the decoy against the curtain's soft wall. Luna held, Nimbus steadied, nobody bit. When the crew hauled the foam fish, an older donor wiped her glasses. "I thought power meant speed," she said. "Apparently it means timing." Feeding ritual followed, crisp as choreography, calves first. Kiva waited, watchful, taking her share only when their bellies rose content. Cameras drank the reversal, so did the skeptics. A producer leaned in. "Say the line," Maya faced the lens. "This isn't a model," she said. "It's a map, proof that experience can rewrite instinct." The deck stayed quiet, honoring the rule. Somewhere underfoot, the hydrophone drew the family's phrase shape, a braid of clicks, a lifted hum, a bass note anchoring 3 lives to the same water. "Record that," Maya told the tech. "We'll need this chord later." No one clapped. Steam rose from cups, and even skeptics leaned closer, listening for the moment the water answered back softly. Fame arrived like a squall. Tour boats shouldered into the cove, phones glittered along the rails, drones stitched halos over the pens. Clips of Kiva's Bubble lessons went viral. Comments crowned her saint or circus. Special case, conditions rare, don't generalize, learn, Maya told a camera crew, repeating it, a buoy line whenever microphones pressed too close. Attention drew shadows. Black and white queen fetches more than cameras, a poacher muttered in a tavern the ranger watched. A voice, two pale calves, sweetened the prize. The ranger wrote the phrases in notebook and underlined tonight twice. The refuge hardened without losing its gentleness. New sensor nets laced the lanes, floodlights gained shields to cut glare, perimeter cameras learned regular faces, and impatient license plates. Patrols doubled. "Record everything," Maya said, "and keep rumor thinner than resolve." Inside the team house, a blueprint sprawled across a salt-dusted table. "Every vulnerability, circle it," Maya ordered. Red rings bloomed, the service dock's blind approach, the maintenance catwalk's dead camera, and the north gate, a hinge the tide serviced like an accomplice. "That's our soft spot," the vet said. "Then we make it honest," Maya replied. Quiet hours returned, no tours after dusk, no drones. Foam decoys retired. A producer asked for closer action. "No," Maya said, "we're not selling proximity. We're safeguarding a culture." They enlisted allies, a Coast Guard liaison, two crabbers with radios, the ferry captain who hated bullies. The ranger logged license plates like poetry, dates, winds, intent. "If they come," he said, "they'll squeak on the page first." Kiva, indifferent to fame, kept her rituals. Calves first, stillness before work. At night, the hydrophone drew a slow, clean line that looked like breathing, done right. Fog became a habit, rolling in on cat feet, licking metal and memory. The north gate groaned at certain tides, a complaint maintenance could not tune out. The blueprint never stopped being updated. The water never stopped taking notes. Fog braided through pilings and laid a cold hand on metal. Diesel breathed low beyond the point, two engines hunting idle. The north gate answered the tide with a weary groan, a hinge sound like a warning cashing its check. "Scanner picks chatter," the ranger said, headset crooked. "Two skiffs, no running lights, cutters on bows." Maya tasted copper and steadied with breath. "Quiet protocol, interior lights to red, everyone off the catwalk." Kiva rose once and vanished, the boat strike notch in her fin, carving a brief crescent. Luna and Nimbus paused mid-circle, bodies listening. The hydrophone drew a thin line like a held nerve. The skiffs slid out of the fog and kissed the fence with rubber rails. Men in cheap rain gear leaned, chain glinting, bolt cutters bright as teeth. Metal rang, the first link sighed. "Make it quick," one hissed. "Take the black and white first, the pale ones after." "Hold positions," Maya said. Her hand hovered over the laptop, the taped-over hotkey, an ember under her palm. The power to flood the bay with stolen song waited an inch away. She closed the lid instead. "We trust what we built." Kiva pivoted toward the gate and slowed, gathering water around her like a cloak. Luna slid to her left flank, Nimbus to her right. Their bodies aligned nose to jaw, small to great, breath to breath. The first skiff nosed through the gap. Engines growled, then the water spoke. Luna fired a tight bubble shield, a wall that bent the surface into trembling glass. Nimbus laced a second ring inside the first and poured a click barrage into the corridor. Sound ricocheted off bubbles, hulls, net, turning distance unreliable, direction false. Gauges jittered, one man swore, compass just spun. "Back it out," another barked, but the throttle coughed and stalled. Kiva added a low shoulder wave, not a strike, an invitation that sketched the safest exit, reverse and leave. The skiff shuddered, chose sense, and lurched back. The second skiff tried to cut across and met the same trembling maze of air and echo. Panic salted the fog. Blue washed the mist, patrol lights rising over the marsh, and the hook returned. A crabber's horn bellowed. The ranger's voice steadied in the radio. "Vessel, heave to!" On the water, nobody cheered. Kiva held her station. Luna and Nimbus pressed along her jaw, a vow written in touch. The gate, newly braced, stopped groaning. Engines faded, only breathing remained. "Family is chosen action," Maya said. Not loudly, but the line carried. Winters stitched thin ice along the floats. Summers drew a silver road to the islands. Kiva grayed at the eye patch, moving with patient economy. The song deepened, never dimmed. One spring dawn, Luna birthed a pale calf in the outer bay. Breath snagged, then caught. Bubbles rose like applause. "Stand back," Maya said. "Let culture work." At dusk, Nimbus patrolled the boundary, guiding Luna's small pod through the seam where refuge meets open water. When a skiff drifted close, he pressed a firm click warning into the hull. The engine softened and turned away. The ferry captain radioed, "Your boy runs a tighter lane than my crew." The song lane persisted beyond its accident. Luna taught her calf the three-note braid, click, click, warble that meant home. Kiva waited at the inner end, humming, and the young pressed their melons to her jaw in thanks. "Write this," Maya told the text. "A rule becomes ritual, ritual becomes culture." Papers said case study, headlines said miracle. Maya preferred neither. "Patients learn to breathe," she told a student. Under a comb of aurora, Nimbus completed the nightly chord beside Kiva and Luna's calf, calves first. Stillness before work. Home every night. The water remembered. Night thins to velvet over Kachamak Bay. The refuge hums like a held breath. Red lights low, rails beaded with salt. Kiva drifts beneath the catwalk, Luna's calf snug at her curve. Nimbus keeps a steady station where the tide slows. On the tablet, a spectrogram blooms, a braid of clicks, a lifted hum, a bass line stitched beneath. Maya closes the logbook. "Not a miracle," she says, "a practice." The ranger tucks his hands in his jacket. "And the rule?" "It changed shape," she answers. "Instinct is a door. We learned how to knock." A faint aurora unspools, green writing on black water. The young press their melons to Kiva's jaw. She answers with a soft ladder of notes, each rung offered, none demanded. The team listens, silent. There is nothing to add. "Come listen," Maya says, but not to herself. "Listen to them." The bay replies with a quiet that isn't empty. It is permission. What we inherit is the first line. What we learn keeps the story. Thank you for watching until the end. If this story touched your heart even a little, that's our greatest joy. If you'd like, please share your thoughts in the comments. We'll keep bringing you stories that stay with you, so please consider subscribing to the channel. See you in the next video.